This is Cinema Chat. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cinema Chat, the podcast where I chat about all things cinema. My name is Izzy, and today is going to be a very fun episode because I am going to be discussing the newest released film that has already made a massive impact at the theater, securing $264 million worldwide after its opening weekend, and once again proving that Christopher Nolan is a beast. Today, I'm talking about the Odyssey. Now, obviously, I've brought up this movie many times since starting this podcast. I've been excited about it since it was announced that Nolan would be adapting his own version of the Odyssey. I've followed along with casting announcements, leaked photos. I was even tempted to purchase a ticket a year ago when the 70mm IMAX sale happened. But unfortunately, I didn't get the correct time they were going on sale, so most of them were already gone. So it just wasn't meant to be. But I was definitely ecstatic for this movie and had very high expectations. I unfortunately do not have a 70mm theater near me anyway. The closest is about 2 hours away. Still tempting. But I was glad to at least secure standard IMAX tickets opening night for my family and friends. We all had a great time, and I've loved talking about it with each of them. And now I get to share even more thoughts here with you guys. I've actually enjoyed Greek mythology for a long time. Honestly, the Odyssey was probably one of my first introductions into these stories. The only other thing I can think of is maybe Disney's Hercules. But I hadn't really watched that until later on. I think the Odyssey was before that because I learned about this in 6th grade. We had read snippets of the story and actually watched the 1997 miniseries in class. And I remember my teacher had to skip some of the parts of it that were too violent to be showing preteens. I always thought that was kind of funny. Then we had the Percy Jackson books come out, which those became a big thing. At the time, I wasn't a big reader. I am now, but at that time, I wasn't a massive reader, so I had to be convinced to read this series by my best friend who was obsessed with this story, still kind of is. But I did like it, and I liked that Sea of Monsters tied in the story of the Odyssey. And I think it's hilarious that a lot of people are making jokes that Percy Jackson prepared them for seeing this movie. I think it's very comedic, and I am enjoying all of it. But these were all additional reasons as to why I was very excited about this movie, because it was something that I already loved, and with an amazing screenwriter and director attached to the project, I couldn't help myself from having high expectations. Everybody kept telling me, you need to lower your expectations, you never know, it might not be great. And I said, I understand what you're saying, however, it's really hard for me to do so because I love this story, I love this director, I trust him, I love most of the actors that are in it. So it was just really, really hard for me to lower expectations, and I'm glad I didn't. Now, as usual, everything is going to be my own opinion, and I am going to be talking in some detail prior to the spoiler warning just because the story is pretty common. It's been around for 3,000 years. So there aren't too many spoilers, but I'll let you know when to stop listening if you haven't seen the film yet. For those of you who know nothing about the Odyssey, the film follows our main character Odysseus, played by Matt Damon, who has just successfully won a 10-year war with the city Troy. Now he starts his journey back home to his kingdom in Ithaca, where his wife and son are waiting for him. However, after angering the god Poseidon, he, along with his crew, struggled to sail back home for years. Meanwhile, back in Ithaca, his wife Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and son Telemachus, played by Tom Holland, are bombarded with many suitors who seek to win Penelope's heart and become the new king, believing that Odysseus is dead and never returning. First off, this film is fantastic. One of, if not my favorite, of this decade. The last film I can remember loving this much was probably Parasite back in 2019. This is definitely one of Nolan's best. I'm still back and forth if I would rank it higher than Oppenheimer because I did really like Oppenheimer, and I was also saying at the time that that was one of his best. But this film, The Odyssey, is definitely high up there. For anyone who's curious, my favorite Christopher Nolan film is Interstellar. It's probably hard to top that film, but I won't lie, this one comes really, really close. Listen very carefully. If you can, I beg you, go see this film in IMAX. Go see it in IMAX. It is an unforgettable experience, and you will not regret it. I will say there are a few moments that are very, very loud, and one sequence that has some flashing lights. So if you're sensitive to those, take that into consideration. But please, please, please do yourself a favor. Watch this in IMAX as Nolan intended. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the story. We begin the film in Ithaca, and we're hearing the song of the victory in Troy. This retelling is done by Travis Scott, who a lot of people were questioning about him being in the film. He's only in it for maybe 2 minutes max, and he actually does a great job. Part of the reason Nolan wanted him was because he's a rapper. They rap poetry, essentially. And so he's able to recite poetry in a great way. And I thought he did a good job. But anyway, the film does follow a non-linear narrative for a while. Once again, the Nolan niche has taken effect. So almost everything is told in a flashback, but it's kind of told like a story, like the tales of Odysseus. Telemachus, his son, is learning all of these stories about him and what happened in Troy because he's trying to figure out if he's still alive. He's trying to figure out what happened to him. Why did he disappear? And I really like this setup because it's like we're learning stories about Odysseus' character and how he ends up where he does. If we'd followed the story chronologically, I think it would be too similar to the original. It helps make it a little bit different, kind of different take on it. And also, it helps us as the audience piece things together. If there's anyone who doesn't know the story, they can learn about all of these events in the same time that Telemachus is learning about them. Next, I want to briefly mention the score because Ludwig, once again, does an unbelievable job. What a goat. For anyone who doesn't know, Ludwig Göransson is a composer and record producer. He's most known for working with Ryan Coogler on all of his films. He won 2 Oscars for Best Original Score for both Black Panther, and just last year he won for Sinners. This is his 3rd time working with Nolan, and he also has won with Nolan for Oppenheimer. I won't be surprised if he earns his 4th Oscar with this film. Nolan really challenged him by stating he didn't want to use a musical orchestra. He wanted something that would fit more along with the Bronze Age. And boy, did Ludwig deliver. It isn't your typical score. And it really helps immerse you into the story. And I think that's why it is so brilliant. Also, fun fact, Ludwig is named after Beethoven, which means Ludwigs are just brilliant musicians. The next thing I want to talk about is the performances. Matt Damon, our lead, does an amazing job. I've been a longtime fan of his, and this movie is another example of how great of an actor he truly is. His emotional range is outstanding, and I'm glad he was able to finally be a lead in a Nolan film. This is his 3rd film with Christopher Nolan, and I think this was definitely the right story for him to take the reins as the lead. My favorite performance was probably Anne Hathaway. She does an unbelievable job commanding her role. The emotional execution was fantastic, and the way she composes herself in each scene, you just connect with her. I couldn't keep my eyes off of her. She She did it so elegantly and with grace and just the emotion, and you could just really, really feel that through the screen, and I just loved it. Robert Pattinson is also somebody I wanted to shout out with a great performance. He plays Antinius, who is one of the suitors, and he does a really amazing job. He really stood out to me too. He does a great job playing a villain, and honestly, it just made me even more excited to see Dune Part 3, where he will also be playing a villain. And I think they've just done a great job in picking villains for the Dune movies, because I was obsessed with Austin Butler's performance in Dune Part 2. So now I'm even more excited for Robert's performance in Part 3. Now let's pivot to my absolute favorite aspect of this film. And yes, it's the practical effects. Wow. Just wow. I love that Nolan wanted to film everything on location, everything that takes place in the ocean. They're actually filming on the ocean. There's no green screen. They're not in a studio. They actually went to each of these places. I believe there's only a couple of scenes that were shot in a studio, but like 98% of the movie is on real location. The scene in the Cyclops' cave is an actual cave, and it's actually called the birthplace of Zeus, which I thought that was pretty fascinating as well. I'm going to mention some other fun facts. They do include some spoilers if you know absolutely nothing about the Odyssey. Just a heads up, if you're familiar with the story, again, they're not really spoilers. The other ones that I've learned now that the movie has come out, they've been talking about how they filmed more scenes, how everything came to be. So these are some of my favorites that I learned. The Cyclops was a 60-foot tall animatronic puppet. The Lastrygonians were actual 7-foot tall stuntmen, and they used 5-foot tall stand-ins for Odysseus and his crew to make them seem shorter. The 7-foot guys just look like giants. All of that is practical. When Cersei turns the men to pigs, all of that is animatronics. She could actually touch and play with those in any way that she needed to for the scene. The scene in the underworld, the actors were actually buried in the sand with a snorkel so they could breathe. Charybdis, the whirlpool, was created by crewmen riding jet skis in circles. And then they rigged the stuntman that were going to be snatched by Scylla to be yanked into the air on time. It's just so cool. It's just so fascinating. It's different, and I love it. It makes for fun stories. Even my mom and I were talking about all of these practicals, and she even said, I want to watch a documentary on how they did all this stuff. I would too. This is all fascinating, all amazing. Nolan even stated that he feels like CGI is taking the easy way out. And I think this just showcases how much he really cares about authentic filmmaking. Don't ever question the king. He knows what he's doing. He cares about what he's creating. He's never going to take the easy way out. And somehow they still wrapped early. They finished 9 days early. He's just insane. He's on another level. And I'm going to say this again. Go see the film. Go experience it in IMAX if you can. You won't regret it. It's meant to be seen in a theater. Please go and enjoy it. There are going to be more spoilers ahead now as I talk about the ending. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, please come back, finish it later. Here we go. Let's talk about the revelation of Troy. We jump back to that moment. They are invading Troy. The crew is demolishing property and statues. We see them killing people in Athena's temple. Odysseus is narrating this as a confession that he feels guilt for what happened in Troy. We then see one of the priestesses as Zendaya, who has been portraying Athena this whole time. And this reveal was done so spectacularly. This was the moment that has just been stuck in my head this whole weekend since I've seen the film. It's just such a good, eye-opening moment. This was actually a point of conversation with everybody I saw the movie with. My mom just wanted clarification. She said, okay, why are we seeing Zendaya? Like, is she Athena or was she this girl? My friends also had their own takes on how they interpreted it. We basically came to the conclusion that She takes the form of Athena because that is who haunts Odysseus throughout the movie. He sees this innocent woman being killed in front of him, and then she then becomes that image of Athena that he constantly sees. Other people online I've seen have also interpreted as kind of a parallel of them cutting off the head of Athena's statue, and he's seeing the actual Athena die in front of him, even though it's just the statue that's being killed. I've seen those interpretations. I've also seen the interpretation that actually is Athena, that they killed her in human form and now she comes back to haunt him. There's a lot of conversation, which I love, and it's just so brilliant. It was just so impeccably done. I have no words, and this scene, this moment, it's stuck in my head. That meme about how often guys think about the Roman Empire, that is currently me with this movie. How often am I thinking about the Odyssey? Pretty often right now. It's just unbelievable. It's so jaw-dropping. It brings a whole new meaning to the story and just ties everything together so well. It's also really fascinating because there were set photos that were released, and people were wondering why Zendaya's costume was so bland and boring when she's supposed to be portraying this god. Well, if she is really the priestess that he saw that night, that is why she's wearing something that wouldn't be godlike. Never doubt Nolan, people. He knows what he's doing. Never ever question this man. He will make you rue the day you say bad things about his work. Jumping back to the score, because I love it so much, the incorporation of the lyre being the sound of Odysseus's bow being plucked literally gave me goosebumps. The whole scene, the whole moment. Again, I've known this story for a long time, so I know exactly, what happens with the bow and them having to string it. But this was just done so beautifully because it's that moment where you can tell that Penelope wants it to be him in a way. And she kind of doubts herself when he doesn't initially do it. And just that moment where she's just having to basically accept what she's been denying forever. And then the bowstring, and you just hear that note, and it's just, chills. Chills. It's so fascinating. This is another thing I'm constantly thinking about. There's this moment. The moment that he plucks the string and she turns around, and it's just everybody in that room knows, oh, Odysseus is back. Even Antinius is like, oh, shoot, I'm a dead man. It's just so brilliant. It's so good. This was probably one of my favorite aspects of the Odyssey as well, is just this idea that this man is coming back into his home in disguise with nobody knowing about it, and then he secretly has this one thing that only he can do, and he reveals it to them, and everybody's just utterly shocked. It's so cool. It's just so fascinating. And just the way that they lined up the score with that moment, I just love it. I'll never shut up about this movie, guys. The podcast is just going to turn into the I Love the Odyssey podcast. No, it's not. But just my point being, it's pure cinema. That's what it is. It's pure cinema. Me as Martin Scorsese meme, hands in the air, absolute cinema. The last thing that I'll mention that I loved about this movie is the portrayal of Agamemnon. He has little to no lines. We never really see his face, but man, when the gates of Troy open and he just walks in, the power that just emanates off of this man was just chef's kiss. It was beautiful. It just showed true power. And he wasn't even a main character. This to me is like how you would portray a superhero or this general who's been leading this army, which he technically is. But you'd think this would have been a bigger character, but his job was just aura. And he was giving. It just, oh my gosh, it was just, I had chills. I was just so locked in and focused. It just felt very, very powerful. And I know that's how that was supposed to come across, was because they invaded this city and now like this powerful man is coming to get his brother's wife back. and it's just so awesome. Again, just something I constantly am thinking about. I just saw this movie 3 days ago, and I've just been constantly thinking about it and talking about it. I think my friends hope I would shut up about it. But I can't. It's just so good. No notes. No notes. I didn't have any part where I didn't like it. I will say, I did feel like it was a little long. I did kind of feel the length of it, but I also didn't care because I was enjoying everything that I was watching. It's almost 3 hours, so you might feel the length of it, but I didn't care. I was having the best time. It was just so good. No notes. 10 out of 10 film. I'm ready for a rewatch. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Sir Christopher Nolan, for blessing us with your brain. Thank you. Looking at awards season, we still have 6 months before it starts. But I think some things that I can predict with confidence is we definitely have a Best Picture contender. Nolan will definitely be nominated for directing and screenplay. Ludwig will be nominated for score, and I do think he's going to win. Definitely see this being one of the most nominated films of the season. I would be very, very shocked if it's not. I think Matt Damon has a good chance of being nominated for lead actor. I think Anne is going to get a nomination for supporting actress. I would love to see Robert receive a supporting nom as well. I could really see that. But I can't make too many win predictions yet because I do have to see what it will compete with. I have to see the other performances, the other films. But this one is definitely going to be tough to beat. This is already giving the same vibe of Oppenheimer. It's just going to come in and dominate the award season. And I'm here for it. He deserves it. Nolan deserves his flowers. And then some. Thank you all for listening. Please feel free to share this episode with anyone who may be interested in it. I had the best time making this episode again. I absolutely loved this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. I'm definitely going to try. But next week, in honor of the newest Spider-Man film releasing soon, I am going to be jumping back to the original 2002 Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. So give it a rewatch just so you're prepared for the next episode. If you would like to follow me online, my username is at IzzyPog8, the number, on both Instagram and Twitter. I am at Living Izzily on TikTok and at IzzyPog on Letterboxd. Shout out to my DJ as usual. Go give him a follow at Mike Afters on both Instagram and TikTok. And with that, a happy movie watching to you all. Bye.